welcome to Coach's Decision, a weekly talk show that covers sports topics from the Bay Area and beyond. I am joined here today in the lovely KSJS studios by local sports guru Chad Oklin-Jolin. How have you been enjoying No Sports Day?
It's a little bit weird, but it also kind of coincides with pretty much my favorite social event of the year in the ESPYs. It's
Are you attending this year?
I wish I was attending. Believe me, that's definitely on the bucket list. It seems like the only show where I get all the jokes, though, so I feel right at home.
Yeah, that's good. You watch the Oscars sometimes, and they make like jokes about producers
yeah,
no one's
exactly.
heard of, and you're watching the Golden Globes and the Hollywood Foreign Press who nobody knows. So I totally understand that. So, Chad, you're new to our show this week, filling in for Joaquin. What are your credentials? You told me you have a really cool title over at San Jose State. What is your title over there?
So I'm the sports broadcasting director at KSJS, the student-run radio station on San Jose State's campus. Been over there for a couple years, but before then I was on KSCO as the high school senior. I've been a part of Sports Pub and just kind of been talking about sports any way I can, and they keep on letting me back in here, so I'm going to keep on riding that one through.
Well, I'm happy to have you. I really enjoy doing Sports Pub with you and Kelsey. It's so much fun, even though it's a godforsaken time in the morning.
Yeah, it's too early.
It's easier to do it at night to bring your A game. So on our A game today, we're going to be talking about money, and more money in the NFL. Later in the show, we'll be taking your calls, and we ask if Florida State has an image problem. If you'd like to call into our show today in about 20 minutes, our phone number is 831-479-1080 to reach producer Tori. You can also find us on Twitter at Coach's Decision. Drop any questions you have in there for the show, and we will happily answer them. Okay, the top of the show. We have to talk about this. 2 prime-time wide receivers have huge contracts now. Dez Bryant and Demaryius Thomas each signed $70 million deals, $40 to $45 million guaranteed. They have contracts that now match Calvin Johnson as the highest in the game at their position. Were the Broncos and Cowboys right in locking them up?
Definitely the Cowboys were right. Dez Bryant he is the top of the game. I would pick him, besides maybe the man you mentioned, Calvin Johnson. I'd probably go him number 2. Demaryius Thomas, it's a little bit more of a gray situation because he is getting towards the latter end of his career where you have to start thinking, a 5-6 year contract. How's that going to weigh in? Year 4, year 5, is he still going to be worth the money? And I think you have to take into account he had Peyton Manning throwing him the ball for the last couple seasons, and we've seen time and time again what that will do to a receiver's stats. But I think the both of them made the right choice, and more power to Dez Bryant and Demaryius Thomas for waiting out this long to get the money that they felt they deserved.
Well, and Demaryius did it in a much better way. The Broncos told him to just wait and that they'd get it done, and he waited, and he was patient, and they gave him a big contract. Dez was more public, as Dez wants to do.
Yep.
He has been a very public figure since he was in college. Famously couldn't play games because he had lunch with Deion Sanders. He's always wanted the spotlight. He's gone through many stages of his career. He finally seems to be getting it together, but he does crave that public image, which is perfect because he plays on the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely perfect. As far as their stats, they're pretty identical. And I would argue that Peyton Manning might give him a little more of a boost than Tony Romo, but Tony Romo's a consistently pretty darn good quarterback.
And he's a lot better statistically than he is just in the public eye. I think he has, to put it in this terms, he's a good fantasy quarterback. You can put it that way.
Because he plays for the Cowboys.
And he throws the ball.
You play for the Cowboys and you don't win the Super Bowl, or you coach the Cowboys and you don't win the Super Bowl, you get crucified publicly because Jerry Jones is a terrible, terrible person to work for, I imagine. I'm sure he compensates you well, but you have to put up with the flurry of crap coming down from him. So this sets up another couple of wide receiver contracts. Guys like Julio Jones and A.J. Green are up next year. Are they in this class, do you think? Are they in this class of receivers?
It's hard to say. I don't know if they're in the class, but they're going to get paid like the class because there's still players. Julio Jones, if he's not on the Falcons, they have no one. And pretty much the same with A.J. Green and the Bengals. He's your best receiver if this is what he's asking.
He's their best player.
Yeah, you're not going to want to see him in another uniform, so you're going to do what you can to keep him in that uniform. But then again, you see the Cowboys letting DeMarco Murray go, who was head and shoulders the best running back in the league.
Right.
So it really comes down to, is the money worth it? Are we trying to move in a new direction? There's just a lot of variables that really can't be discussed until the time's upon us, I don't think.
That's true. Well, I think it's a passing league now. We know this. DeMarco Murray can still be a very effective runner, 400 carries a season. You don't know how long that's going to last. wide receiver is a much less fungible position. You can't just slot random guys in there like you can at running back. So teams are really valuing their wide receivers, especially the ones that stay healthy. And both of these guys have stayed on the field for a significant part of their career so far. Also, to talk about NFL money reasons and things, did you hear about the collusion charges?
I have not.
Okay, so they were Des Bryant was throwing out collusion charges, saying that the Broncos and Cowboys were talking to each other about their upcoming contracts for Demaryius and Dez, and they thought, that would be against the rules to try to set a number, to try to set the market. Their contracts are eerily similar. They're within $500,000 or a couple $1 million in guaranteed money and signing bonuses. So I think everyone's happy at the end of the day because they just got paid. But if the Cowboys and Broncos were collaborating on those contracts, that's serious. I don't like that at all.
I don't like it, but at the same time, it does kind of give you a number. It gives you something to go off of. So I understand their thinking and doing it, because, if first of all, what happens if they sign a contract on the same day, Demaryius gets $10 million more than Dez or vice versa?
He has a better agent,
it's a better agent, and that's just, that's, for lack of a better term, not fair. That, two players of very similar standing, especially within their own organization, are going to get paid so starkly different.
We're going to change it from free agency. It's now going to be called paid agency.
Yeah,
these guys are getting paid.
Yeah, not free agency. Not at all.
I read a really interesting article this week by Arash Markazi on ESPN. He wrote about the difference in guaranteed money between NBA and NFL contracts. NBA contracts are fully guaranteed. You can sign 4-year deals, 5-year deals. You get every single dollar. In the NFL, if you're a great elite player, you maybe get 2/3 of your contract guaranteed. Most often, you get 1/3 of your contract guaranteed, or even less for more ignominious players like linemen and rotation defenders. So, what do you why do you think that is? Why do you think the NBA contracts are guaranteed, the NFL ones can't?
Because NFL players, their days are numbered. It's one of the same reason why I don't bat my eye if people are sitting out to try and get a longer contract in the NFL, because you go out there, take one snap, run a route across the middle, and get hit in the head, and you're done. Your career could be over. So I do not fault any of these guys at all for going and fighting for every penny, even if they are talking in the $50 million range, because their career's numbered. One day they're not going to be able to do it anymore, and that day you just never know when it's going to be, more so than in any other sport. You're putting your life, literally your life, on the line every time you line up with that much. Two guys running 20 miles an hour at each other, trying to hit each other as hard as they can. There's no victor in that. There really isn't, and it really wears on players over time. That's why it's so rare to see, the 15, 20-year veterans. They just don't exist anymore because of the way the game is played and at such a high intensity.
Well, they absolutely exist in the NBA. There's still guys hanging on in their late 30s trying to chase championships. But also there's fewer players in the NBA, so there's less money being spent on contracts, period. There's 53 guys on an NFL roster, plus their practice squad. All these guys need to get paid. Also, there's no max contract limit. Quarterbacks can make whatever. They're paying quarterbacks $25 to $30 million a season now. That's taking money out of the NFL's lower class, the rotation lineman or the third cornerback or the nickel cornerback. These guys are making less money because they're giving $25 to $30 million to the Peyton Mannings and the Joe Flaccos and the Aaron Rodgerses of the world. So I think that's sort of unfair. I think NFL contracts do need to be guaranteed, but you have to place a maximum number of years on their contracts like the NBA do. Maybe 3- and 4-year contracts in the NFL because skills change so quickly, because injuries erode guys so quickly. And definitely you have to beef up their pensions. Everything I read about NFL pensions and the way they treat ex-players has been terrible. I feel bad. I come on this show every week and I love the NFL so much, but they make so many bad decisions and so many bad PR moves.
Yeah, it's just hard to... I think as much as it irks me to say it, Richard Sherman probably had the most eye-opening interview about that topic, where he goes and says, oh, you mean the NFL is going to get mad when we get DUIs and their biggest 3 sponsors are all beer companies? Mm-hmm. And then, they get so mad that we can't promote our own, brands. We can't do anything for ourselves. It's just a big corporation. It really seems like there's a lot of collusion that goes on, more so than anybody really realizes, and it's not all that hard to find. You look into it. I've only looked into it for probably a year and a half, to where I've been actually interested in it. And I didn't know before a year ago that all these 4 of the big 4 sports were all nonprofits. which makes zero sense.
They're all tax exempt, and they have like antitrust laws applied to them.
Roger Goodell was the CEO of a nonprofit corporation that made $43 million last year.
Right.
So that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And it's really funny because they call Roger Goodell the commissioner of the NFL. They call Adam Silver the commissioner of the NBA. He's not. They represent the owners. They don't represent the players. And the players' union is always poorly equipped, except in baseball. The Major League Baseball has always had a great union, to get those contracts guaranteed, to get the players the compensation they deserve. That was Donald Fear doing that back in the day, and it really set up nicely for, even up till now, baseball players get treated better by their union than any other. The NFL is just going to have so many image problems down the road, and it's raking in cash.
Yeah, it's really bad. And one thing I think that some light has to be shed on it, the NBA, players have an absurd amount of control over the league, more so than any other sport, in my personal opinion. You look, the best example is probably the biggest, most pulverizing star in sports, LeBron James. You see him every time he is going to go somewhere else or maybe going to go somewhere else, whether it be 2010 or last summer, nobody else would sign in free agency until LeBron went somewhere. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that LeBron James can, essentially just sit on his bed and say, oh, I'm going to go to the Cavs, and then billions of dollars are spent just because one guy goes one place. Since you said there's so few players on a team that one player can really make that big of a difference. So I believe that has something to do with why the contracts are guaranteed for so long, because they want to keep you there. If you get a LeBron James, you get, a healthy Derrick Rose, a Kevin Durant, someone like that, you don't want to see him in another uniform.
There's no need for Adam Silver. There's no need for Dan Gilbert. LeBron runs that league right now. His decisions, like you said, make every other decision, every other domino fall into place. Pat Riley can't even control him. He's one of the most powerful basketball people of all time. Couldn't even keep him in South Beach before he fled to Cleveland. Let's wrap up a couple more NFL contracts at the top of the show. Justin Houston had a very explosive year last year. Came within half of a sack of catching Michael Strahan for the all-time record sacks in a season. He got $52.5 million guaranteed to play linebacker. It's the biggest linebacking contract of all time. It's the biggest contract the Chiefs have ever given out. I think this guy deserves to get paid. Pass rushers are at a premium always, but man, that's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal, but after watching the Niners, seeing what, a Patrick Willis can do for your team, or a Navarro Bowman, or even an Alden Smith, a down linebacker in quotes. So it's definitely worth the money. A linebacker, because he's multifaceted. He's a lot like a quarterback. A good quarterback will open up your running game too. A good linebacker can stop a running game and still mess with the passing game, or completely shut down tight ends and still be up in the box getting the running backs. So it's a really versatile position, and you want to shell out the big bucks for that.
Absolutely. I wish Brett Favre had unretired and laid down in front of Justin Houston to give him the sack record, just because that's all Brett Favre was good for. That made me so mad when he did that. It's like, be a nice guy. I know Michael Strahan's like the nicest guy in the world, but you got to earn that sack record.
Yeah, it would have been nice just to see him get that close. That's the only hard part. Is a whole season, could have gotten it.
And it's so hard to replicate 21 sacks, because a lot of it's luck. A lot of it is, hey, this guy opened up the line, now I'm going to take down the quarterback. Or, J.J. Watt sets up so many other people to get sacks when he doesn't get.
When he's getting triple teamed.
Right. Yeah, that opens it up for the entire linebacking core to open season on whatever poor quarterback is sitting back there. Our last NFL story, we touched on this a couple weeks ago. JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, blew off contract talks pretty much with the Giants, and now his deadline is passed. He has to play for the franchise tender. Do you think the Giants would have given him a long-term deal before the finger? Because they definitely don't want to now.
He was getting near the end of his career. Wasn't the same. I think it was Justin Tuck who left. That kind of hurt him, not having that other stalwart on the line to maybe take some attention away from him. Mm-hmm. But it seems like when he's the guy, people could block him a little bit more frequently. But, even then, he still ended up with pretty good numbers. So I think they probably would have given it to him. I don't think we would have seen a 5-year, $70 million, 5-year, $40 million. You probably would have gotten maybe a 2 or 3 year.
Yeah, 3 years, 36, maybe something like that.
But instead, you're going to get 1 year, and, hopefully he's still able to be productive so he can have a contract after that.
Yeah, I think the contract number for him, the franchise tender, is going to be $13.2 million. So he's doing fine. But definitely it's going to be interesting to see a football player missing a finger. I haven't seen that since Ronnie Lott.
Yeah, that's very And it happened to two different players. There's a cornerback, too.
C.J. Wilson, who's not just a baseball pitcher. C.J. Wilson, who's a cornerback.
I was amazed, too, yeah. It's goodness. How did that happen to two? It amazes me.
I don't know, my friend. All right, let's show some sponsors some love. Our first love goes out to Bruno's Barbecue and Catering in Scotts Valley, my favorite barbecue joint in this godforsaken county, which is a dead zone as far as barbecue goes. Over the hill, plenty of good barbecue. But in Santa Cruz, the only place to go, Scotts Valley, Bruno's Barbecue. They've got steak, they've got ribs, burgers, salad. Their menu is enormous. They also care very much about beer and alcohol and getting you liquored up so you can eat your brisket and die in peace. They also show sports, big 49ers fans over there. They also have an upstairs loft where you can host parties. They'll provide a bartender, TVs, lots of seating. It's a very cool loft. Thank you to Bruno's Barbecue, as always, in Scotts Valley in the Kings Village Shopping Center. Our second sponsor at the top of the show is local artist Ken Keegan, a personal friend of mine. We're actually going to give away another one of his prints right now. If you'd like to win a print by local artist Ken Keegan, our phone number is 831-479-1080. He paints just about everything. He does landscapes. He does people. He's just really interested in everything around him. We had him on the show. He's a fantastic guy. So go to artwanted.com, look up Ken Keegan. You can find some of his art. You can make a T-shirt out of it. He'll send you prints, anything. Be the first caller, 831-479-1080, and we'll give away that last print from Ken. Okay. Now is the best part of the show because I get to talk to my favorite person who is on the line right now. His name is Daniel Zarchi. And as soon as I get him on the horn here. Danny, you there, buddy?
Hey, bud.
Hey, how you doing? You're on with me and our new friend Chad. Say hi to Chad.
Hey, Chad.
How's it going, Daniel?
Good.
So Danny, you got the bar coming up. You're about to be a lawyer. So you don't have
fingers crossed, yeah.
Fingers crossed. You don't have a whole lot of time to watch sports, but I know you. You watch the home run derby and the All-Star game.
Well, actually, it turns out that when you're doing 10,000 flashcards and you want to have something on in the background, baseball is perfect for that. So I've actually been watching more baseball.
So were you impressed with the presentation of the home run derby? Because I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, I loved it. I think that everything about it was perfect. I think that I think in particular, the timer was great. I know they went from 5 minutes to 4 for weather purposes, but I think the 4 minutes was the perfect amount of time anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it all kind of came together. There was none of this like taking 10 pitches, and you never know how long it's going to go on because they might just, go Cespedes on it and keep hitting it, and then the players themselves don't know how many to hit because they don't want to tire themselves out, and they don't know. They're basically doing like a rotisserie fantasy thing where you want to get more because you don't know how many everyone else is going to get. I think everything they did really made it much more competitive and a lot more fun.
And tell me why there shouldn't be the local cleanup hitter from every home stadium in the home run derby. It was so great to see the fans cheer for Todd Frazier every time he knocked off another opponent. That was fantastic.
I think there should. I think that's great.
There's some teams where it would be difficult. Sometimes they don't have big sluggers. If Petco had hosted in 2010
do it anyway.
Or whatever. Yeah, do it anyway. Have the local kid at least get to try. If he's not an all-star, he doesn't even have to leave his house.
There's one guy at least one guy on every team who can hit it out of the park. It could have been Jed Jerko or something like that. Jed Jerko could have hit 20 home runs. He's not very good at real baseball, but that's okay. That's not what the home run derby is. The home run derby is batting practice.
Who is good at baseball? What did you think, Chad? Who were you impressed by? I like Jock Peterson. Who were you actually impressed by in the
derby?
Yeah.
Obviously Todd Frazier, have to be impressed by him, but I just got to go with the old man, Albert Pujols. Still have to be impressed by him, even though the early exit. Said he's still out there leading the league in home runs at his age.
He is 55 years old.
Yeah, that's what he's got to be. It was awesome. And to see him booing all the St. Louis players in the game, just all that funny stuff, it was cool to see that. That's what I had the most fun watching.
I love that the biggest boo, Braun got booed pretty badly, which is fine with me because he's a horrible human being.
Oh,
but
the worst.
Even louder.
The worst.
An even louder boo was for Yadier Molina.
I saw that. That was hilarious.
It was great. And he loved it. You know, he turned around and pointed at the Molina on the back of his jersey, and he was laughing. And yeah, everyone had good fun with it.
Yeah, I'm glad. The All-Star Game doesn't mean as much to me as the Home Run Derby because it's just not as fun. I know it's supposed to mean something now, but you can still tell the managers are only half trying. You know, we had this Royals issue that thankfully got mostly solved. What did you think of the actual All-Star Game? I mean, Trout winning 2 MVPs in a row is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Leading off the game with a home run off Zach Greinke, who has been absolutely dominant this season, and who was dominant.
He hasn't given up a run in like 35 innings.
Well, and he was dominant after Trout hit the home run. He shut guys down. Trout is such a special player that nothing matters when he's at the plate because anything can happen. Doesn't matter who he's facing or where he is. He's so special.
I think that that's the fun of it, is that you see these matchups that don't really happen in real life. You know, like
well, they do happen.
Well, they do, but you also, I mean, ESPN, MLB, they don't really market their stars very well. And I was listening to a podcast recently that was talking about how if you go up to an average member of the street, like, they probably know who Derek Jeter is. But do they know who Mike Trout is? I mean... Or
if you showed them a picture of him, they would have no idea.
They'd say that's that guy from the Subway ad.
That's like when they had Matt Harvey go out and talk to New Yorkers about, you know, hey, what do you think of this Matt Harvey guy? And then everyone has an opinion. Oh, he's so great. He's my favorite Met now. And they didn't know they were talking to the real Matt Harvey.
Right. And, you know, so what the All-Star Game is good for is presumably you get people know who Albert Pujols is, but they might not know who Jacob deGrom is.
He was also fantastic.
Struck out 3 guys on 10 pitches, which is almost as impressive as striking out 10 guys on 3 pitches.
You know, Jacob deGrom, 9 pitches. Just do it in 9. It's a better story. Learn your narrative, son.
Well, because Santiago Casilla, who's not as good as Jacob deGrom, had an immaculate inning earlier this year.
They happen, and they are immaculate, and they are fantastic. What did you think about, I know he was there because he was doing the game for Fox, but what did you think about the Pete Rose coming out to the mound?
I think it's good. I mean, it's part of baseball likes to embrace its history, and I like that. I mean, I'm a big fan of Barry Bonds, so obviously I'm going to have a certain attitude toward this.
Chad's excited. He likes you now, Danny. He wasn't sold before, but now he likes you.
But I think that when you got things like the Hall of Fame, the Franchise 4, when you're honoring the greatest players of all time, there's a certain point where you just need to say this person's really, really good. And obviously with Bonds, you're talking about things that actually might have affected how well he played.
Well, and Rose isn't he's not Roman Polanski. Like, there's no outstanding charges of him, you know, doing anything deviant or truly unlawful. But, you know, at the same time, he's banned from baseball. How can you be banned from baseball and be at the All-Star Game? Isn't that baseball?
Well, because, I mean, arguably no. But, but also because Rob Manfred, who has been more receptive to Pete Rose being back in baseball than Bud Selig ever was.
Right. Well,
so it makes sense.
He's from a different era. I mean, Selig was very, very old school. He existed in the old atmosphere of baseball, being an old baseball owner and being somebody who I guess he felt betrayed by Pete Rose, whereas Pete Rose has never done anything to Manfred or Manfred's league except try to make money off of it, but no one can blame anyone for that. Let's get out of that, and I want to hear your thoughts before I let you go about the Giants 4. What did they call it, you said?
The Franchise 4.
The Franchise 4. Were you happy with the decision of the 4?
Well, see, I mean, this is what's interesting about the Franchise 4 is that you've got a lot of really obvious picks. I mean, throughout the whole league, you know, you've got Nolan Ryan being named to 3 teams' Franchise 4s. You know, Vlad Guerrero is on the Angels and the Nationals/Expos, which I'm sure Jonah Carey is very happy about.
Which there are also no Nationals on that list, which was great.
But, you know, what's interesting is to see the current players who are on each team's
Trout was on the Angels list already.
And Posey was on the Giants.
Posey was on the Giants?
Right.
I thought the Giants list was absolutely perfect. It was the 4 players I would have picked, and seeing Bonds on there, finally getting some recognition.
No Marichal, though?
Made it. Yeah, I mean, you can, but who are people going to think of? Willie McCovey, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, Buster Posey, or Juan Marichal?
Orlando Cepeda.
And I mean, that was the thing. There was no pitching. That was the problem that I had. Is pitching staff that's been as dominant as the Giants over the last half century to not have any pitchers in there. But even if, I mean, it seems like it'd be unfair to put one of them in without putting all of them in.
Let's take them all out and just put Bruce Bochy there, because 3 titles, that's why.
Bruce Bochy. You want to hear the best Bruce Bochy story you'll ever hear?
Hey, Danny, Chad's about to tell us a Bruce Bochy story. Please, Chad.
Yeah,
One of my friends is the manager at the team store at the new Niner Stadium. Bruce Bochy comes in and he asks him, can I get you anything, a beverage, anything like that? He goes, yeah, can I have a cold beer? He's like, oh, well, we can't do that. And just the best way you could have possibly answered that question.
You can't help me, sir. I was looking for a cold beer and a Jersey. All right, Danny, we're going to let you go, buddy. Thank you for coming on our show today. You can follow Danny at Giants Pod. He talks a lot about the San Francisco Giants. Eventually, we're going to become podcasters again once Danny becomes a lawyer.
Yeah, that my schedule will clear right up.
Yeah, clears right up. All right, man. Well, we're going to talk to you soon. You're off the next 2 weeks, so we'll talk to you as soon as possible. Thanks, buddy.
Okay. Have a good show.
Thanks. Have a good show. What does he think we do here? We do sponsors. We have 99 Bottles, which sponsors our show. Wonderful place downtown to hang out. The premier spot for dining, drinking, watching sports. They have a full menu. Waffle fries are delicious. I love going down there, having a pint. I know a couple of the bartenders. I know the owners. Really cool people. Really good business. They have a little bit of patio seating, a double-sided bar, a bunch of back seating. They have an upstairs area with a giant TV. They play soccer matches. They play Giants games. They play whatever local sports is happening. They will make it happen for you. 99 Bottles located on Walnut and Pacific downtown. Head down there. Tell them I sent you. They'll be happy to hear it. I love 99 Bottles. Thank you for the sponsorship. Okay, we are on to a segment of our show I am now calling Calls and Balls, because it's the only thing ridiculous that I could think of. If you want to talk about anything on our show today, please call us 831-479-1080, and we can talk about anything. But we're going to start with Florida State, because I am not happy with the state of Florida State, and I don't think anyone can be right now. They're coming off 2 incidents with players potentially or actually doing hitting of women. They're coming off, a pretty sad tenure from Jameis Winston as their quarterback. Lots of controversy there. What is the state of Florida State football? What can they fix? Is it the coach firing? Is it a culture change that they need?
This kind of reminds me of what Miami kind of thought they were in the 90s before the 2000s came out with when they turned their program back around. It's just ugly. Their players are getting in trouble. Players get it in their heads. Oh, I go to Florida State. We didn't lose a game for 2 years. I don't have to worry about anything. And, one thing that you really have to remember, these kids are 19, 20, 18, 21. Granted, that gives you no right or excuse to do anything that has been done. Hitting women is not okay in any sense, but you got to remember these are young kids that are making stupid mistakes. Especially you look at Jameis Winston stealing crab legs, yelling profanities. That's not something that's exactly going to get him in trouble in the NFL. Well, stealing crab legs would, but that contract he's not going to be able to, not going to need to anymore.
Well, so my thing is, and I think I talked about this in Sports Pub with Kelsey and you, all these towns, Tallahassee, Florida, Gainesville, Florida, Ames, Iowa, these guys are the rock stars of the whole town. If you're in Detroit or New York or Los Angeles, there's tons of stars. So you go to UCLA, people don't really know who you are. But when you are pretty much the mayor of a town because you're the starting quarterback for that town's team, people who don't even go to that university or have known anyone who's gone to that university are fans of you and your team. So you need to be careful because there's going to be scrutiny, especially in the smaller towns, which have smaller bar scenes and not much media. So when media does happen, it gets big and it gets blown up. And there's a video of the young man, DeAndre Johnson, I believe his name is, actually striking a woman. And that is completely unacceptable behavior by a football player, by a lawyer like Danny wants to be, like radio hosts like us. Should never happen. Do you think the bar ban was proper? Do you think them not going to bars is a solution, or do you think that's just a for show thing?
It's a for show thing. I feel like something like this, it's not situational. It's more internal.
It's institutional.
And it's not like, oh, they were in a bar and this girl came. It's the wrong way of thinking. It's the wrong moral compass. It's a much deeper rooted problem. And I think you almost have to go all the way back and start from the bottom in your recruiting process. Maybe try and target different kids who don't have that sort of high and mighty feel about themselves, because it seems like those are the kids who always get in trouble. But One of the points that got brought up about this at the SEC Media Day yesterday, Steve Spurrier, coach for South Carolina, said, South Carolina had 2 of these incidents too. Kids got in trouble for the exact same things, but luckily, he said this part, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way and opened my eyes at the same time, said luckily they weren't star players, so it wasn't national news. And Florida State has gotten a little bit unlucky, you could say, but still, just because he's not a star player, it doesn't matter. It seems like South Carolina should have been under the same scrutiny, but I guess that kind of is just the nature of the media beast.
Winning helps, too. Florida State has won a lot of games recently, and that's when the microscope gets bigger. That's when you have a higher profile. That's why these guys especially can't be the ones to mess up. If some lineman for Baylor who didn't compete for a BCS championship does something, it's not going to get noticed. But it's still bad that it happened.
But Jameis Winston steals some crab legs.
He didn't even steal them. He was gifted that's a whole story we don't need to get into.
And they ended up making money. Anyways,
right.
Keep going.
But it's an image problem, and Florida State has it. Jimbo Fisher either needs to be fired or he needs to seriously get his program together. They have things like the NFL Rookie Symposium where they sit the rookies down and they say, this is how you manage your money. This is how you handle your image. This is the lifestyle you're going to live from now on because you're an NFL player. Do they do that in college? I have no idea. I'm not in those rooms. But they have to not just give guidelines, not just hand them paper. They have to make sure that they're going to be trustworthy and honest young men because that's what they need to be.
Yeah, and it's just what a lot of the kids don't realize. And, if I was 18 going on 19 playing on ESPN every single night, I don't think I would realize it either, is that you affect a lot of people with your decisions. And, putting on that Florida State jersey or putting on that, Ohio State, whatever college team you want to say, you're representing a lot of people. And when you get into those southern states like Alabama, Ole Miss, you're representing a whole state. UCLA, San Jose State, where I go, you're representing a very small part of San Jose County where, they're not even that big, but schools like Florida State, like Florida, those schools all throughout the SEC and the South, these 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they're making waves a lot bigger than I think they thought was possible.
Mm-hmm. They just need to realize that their stuff does stink, in fact.
And grow up, for lack of a better term again.
And I don't care. Party hard, drink, do cool
do what you do in
stuff.
College, yeah.
Absolutely. You can mess up. It's okay, but you can't commit these kinds of acts. With the way video is going on in this country, how everyone has a phone, everything's being recorded all the time, recruiters and coaches are checking athletes' Twitter feeds. And there are some programs that if you do this, this, and this on Twitter, they won't even recruit you. They don't care how big your arm is. They don't care what your 40 time is. They won't do it. And those are the programs that need to be more prominent. Those are the ones that need to be more widespread. Where in the SEC, football is king. If you can throw a football, catch a football, run a football, you are a god. We need to not deify these people so much who are so young. It's
just so cyclical, though, because the coaches obviously are going to look for the best players, because if they don't, they lose their job. Mm-hmm. So they want to put the best product on the field. And, off the field, you think Nick Saban's going doing dorm checks? Probably not.
He's got no time.
So he's too busy driving his Mercedes around, or his Lexuses around. But, it's just it's kind of just a messed up situation, and it's not going to get fixed until either the money side of it, where you just keep wanting to make more money, whether that curbs, or the NCAA actually starts to come down on this type of stuff and make it so, Florida State right now gets an automatic 3-year BCS bowl ban or not BCS bowl, sorry, the playoff. Yeah. So they get that ban, and that would do it. If you look over at USC bowl ban, Florida State bowl ban. Oh, you got an ACC team now. You got an SEC team now. It's going to start actually meaning something when they get these allegations and sanctions.
Well, look what they're doing in Texas. If guys act up, you're off the team. You're gone.
Golden.
The team's not very good, but eventually they can get to a spot where they have good players and they have well-meaning young gentlemen who want to play sports, who appreciate their scholarship, because if they don't, you get thrown off the team. You got to clean stuff up. College sports is off the hook bad right now, mostly in football. Basketball is solved because a lot of these guys are one and done. It doesn't matter what they do. They're just a blip on the Duke radar or the Kentucky radar. But college football, they have these guys for 3 or 4 seasons, and a lot can happen in those 3 or 4 seasons. They need to better prepare their players to be public figures because that's what they're going to be, especially in the states you mentioned, Alabama, Mississippi. There's no professional sports teams there. There's no one else for anyone to look up to there. They represent the entire state, like you said.
I was just in North Carolina for a while, and everybody's either a Tar Heel fan, or they're a Duke fan, or they're a Wake Forest fan, or they're an NC State fan, and they want to tell you, and NC State basketball, I didn't even realize that was a thing, and so many people wear it down there just because,
man, that's a
the
cool team.
The Charlotte Hornets aren't that big, the Carolina Hurricanes aren't that big, so
the Panthers are in.
What else do they really have down there? And let's not forget, Cam Newton got in some trouble in college too.
He did, but his kind of trouble seems so much different in retrospect than kind of trouble that DeAndre Johnson's striking a young lady.
It seems less malicious, but still, that's breaking the law any way you look at it. He stole a laptop, I think is what it was. Any way you cut it, that's breaking the law.
Right. I just think that's a lot better than physical
violence
manifested
better.
in a situation like that. Okay, let's move on to something that's not as depressing and not going to make me as angry as that just made me. I want to talk about Jordan Spieth and St. Andrews. I don't like golf all that much. I will watch the majors. I like the stories. I like St. Andrews. It's one of the most beautiful courses in the world. The golf is crazy. It gets weird. Jordan Spieth has an opportunity right now to win 3 majors to start the year, something that only Ben Hogan has ever done. That's a crazy accomplishment. He's actually got a pretty good road to do it because Rory McIlroy is out with an ankle injury that he sustained playing recreational soccer. Do you think Spieth can win? And if he wins, do you think the Grand Slam is in play?
I think Spieth can win just because who's going to take it from him? It really seems like, you go back maybe 10 years when there was Vijay Singh, Weir, Woods, and Mickelson. It seemed like one of those 4 was going to win it every single weekend. Ernie Els was in there too. It seemed like one of those guys was going to win it every weekend, and that just hasn't been the case since Tiger fell off. And until this guy, Spieth coming up, he's won, 5 events this year, 4 events this year already with the Masters, or the majors included. So I see him. I just don't see why not is really the only reason to pick him is that, there's no other name jumps out at you.
See, I think this is going to be really good for golf. I think it's actually good for golf that Rory's not involved for the rest of the year because I think if Spieth goes on to win 3 of 4 majors or wins all 4 majors, that's going to create a nice story to open the season next year because Rory's going to come back and try to take that, best young golfer alive status, and it's going to create a rivalry. And that's what sports really needs. The rivalry we grew up with was Tiger versus everybody, which was a very fun rivalry. But I'm ready for the head-to-head. I'm ready for 2 guys to take the reins and just start – it's golf, so they can't throw punches, but throw metaphorical punches and start winning some tournaments. So I think this is Spieth's year, but I think next year could be both of their years, and that would be the most entertaining thing that could happen.
It really would, because those are the only 2. Golfers, if you say who's in golf, everyone's going to say Tiger Woods. Some are going to, maybe the more seasoned guys will say Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth, because those are the 3 names that I can really think of.
I could make up names, and you'd believe me, that guy won, he was 3rd at the PGA last year, right?
Yeah,
no, I just made that guy up.
Yeah, no, it's... I could name some golfers, but there's nobody of real substance, it seems like.
And it's the same thing with Mike Trout, with Jordan Spieth. It's great because they're so young. It makes it that much more appealing, and you have to project their career forward, and how crazy could it be if this guy could do this, if, Spieth could beat out Jack Nicklaus, even though that conversation is a decade down the road. It's still interesting.
Yeah, I heard people comparing him to Tiger. It's like, whoa. Let's take a break there, pump the brakes.
Yeah, the most dominant run in the history of golf. You're not really going to top it, but it's at least there, and it's at least making the sport
fun to talk about.
Exactly. Also fun to talk about Conor McGregor. One thing about the UFC is it's a niche sport still. It has a little bit of crossover with something like Ronda Rousey, who's a very marketable athlete. But Conor McGregor, everyone has an opinion on this guy. Everyone's either way pro Conor, against his antics. But any way you shake it, he's a dominant fighter right now. He beat Chad Mendes over the weekend. I thought that was in hand because I thought he could deal with Mendez's wrestling. He's going to have a super fight now with Jose Aldo when Aldo heals up from his rib injury. And Conor's actually the favorite in Vegas right now for that fight. This is the kind of thing that people want to watch. I think Aldo can win that fight. Would you watch something like this? When they promote events like this, do you go out of your way to watch them? I
do not go out of my way to watch them, but I mean, if I walk up to a bar and there's a $5 cover charge, I'm pretty excited to go in and watch a fight. But Conor McGregor, he's pulverizing. He's a lot of fun to watch, and the UFC is kind of a weird sport, weird corporation in that it's kind of been on that second tier, trying to break into the top tier of sports coverage for so long. What seems like so long, probably only been 4 or 5 years now.
They still can't fight in the state of New York.
Really?
Yeah.
For what reason?
New York, it's illegal to fight mixed martial arts fight in the state of New York.
So
they can't do things like go to Madison Square Garden. They can't do all that fun stuff, have that whole market to themselves. They can't do that. So it's a really interesting battle. There's still senators out there who have opinions about, it's a barbaric sport and yada yada, and it is barbaric, but it's like the NFL, but you see the pain, you see the blood, you see all of this more because they're not wearing pads and helmets. So I don't like any of that, but I understand what you mean about the second tier. But fights like this, the Aldo McGregor fight, this is the one that shakes the UFC loose. It gets to the first 10 minutes of SportsCenter. If the fight finishes, it's in the top 10 plays. And Conor's a finisher, and that's why the UFC is getting behind him so hard. He's finished 5 of his last 6 fights, and that's what the UFC wants. Knockouts, knockouts, knockouts. Aldo doesn't knock anyone out. He's almost impossible to beat, so it's going to be a really interesting fight trying to see Conor finish Jose Aldo.
Yeah, one thing that I almost don't want to happen after hearing you mention that, going to be honest, not a big UFC fan. Like I said, I enjoy the sport, but, after seeing what happened with the whole Pacquiao-Mayweather, everybody was so disappointed in it. It doesn't seem like they're setting themselves up for failure, but UFC, they're right, like I said, in a tipping point. They could go one way or another, and they've been on that point for a few years and just hasn't really come together for them. But Conor McGregor is exactly what can take you out of that, because he might be crazy and he might be off the wall. He might jump and scream, and if I'm not mistaken, he almost punched his opponent at the weigh-in, didn't he?
He likes to get feisty at the weigh-in, and that's a lot of that is
It's all for show, and I mean, I understand that, but that's marketable,
right?
And he is a very outspoken man, and he can be the face of your sport, quote unquote, if you want him to.
Mm-hmm.
So I can definitely see how that would play in, and how that could play in very well if this is as big of a fight as you're saying it is.
Yeah, I think it's going to be enormous. They put a promotional pitch that rivaled only, I think, Sonnen Silva 2, which was the promotion's biggest fight ever. So I think it's going to be big, and I actually think the fact that they delayed it due to Aldo's injury is going to make it even bigger, because they're going to get a whole new marketing budget. They're going to say, this time it's for real. Now is the time for this to happen.
It was all planned.
It was all the plan. All right, well, we're going to do our last sponsor love of the night. We're going to talk again about Bruno's Barbecue and Catering in Scotts Valley. Did you know that you can go to Bruno's Barbecue and have delicious food? Did you also know that you can call them and they will deliver it to you? They do catering. They will do your summer jam, your summer party. They will do weddings, anything. Your guests will be so excited to see the Bruno's trucks rolling in, because everyone knows it's the original California barbecue. It's the best barbecue in the county, maybe a couple of adjacent counties. I haven't done enough exploring, but I love it. I've been going there for years. If you mention my name at Bruno's Barbecue, Thomas Todd, or Coach's Decision, or you heard me on KSCO, you will get a free order of fries. Bruno's is going to hook you up. You're going to need the fries to soak up all the meat and the beer and all the other delicious things you're going to be eating, but those fries will be on the house. Bruno's Barbecue, Kings Village, Scotts Valley. Call them for your catering events. Call them for your in-store events that you want to have there. They will hook you up. Also, our other sponsor today, Ken Keegan, local artist. We actually gave away his print to a young man named Glenn McPherson, ages and parts unknown. We also, Shandy Malone won our other print, and Clark Knudsen. So we had 3 winners from the last 2 weeks. Ken's going to give those prints out. We're going to get your information and send you those. Thank you guys for listening. Ken really appreciates it. Go to artwanted.com and search Ken Keegan. You can see all of his art, and you can buy some stuff. Great friend of mine, Ken Keegan. Now's the part of our show where we bring on producer Tori, who wants to talk about some of the stranger things in sports. Hi, Tori. How you doing?
The stranger things in sports?
I'm one of the stranger things in sports, I think.
You are a strange thing, that's for sure.
All right. What do you got for us today?
All right. Well, I can't go a week without bringing up my girl, Riley Curry.
She's not an only girl anymore.
NBA's royal family has welcomed daughter Ryan Curry. They announced
RYAN?
Yes.
Okay, that's not confusing.
Steph and Aisha announced it on Instagram with a picture of Riley holding her little sister.
Hearts across the country melt.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Can I start calling the Curry daughters the Spice Girls?
I think that's been done before.
Has it? Is that if that's what you want, if that's what you really, really want, then you can go ahead. I approve of that. What did you think of the whole Riley Curry thing, Chad? I thought it was great. Anytime children can be involved in sports, it's wonderful, because that's who likes sports.
Yeah, I really liked it till people started complaining about it, saying that it took away from the overall overall.
Their overall enjoyment of the game.
Yeah,
of the
press conference, the overall successfulness of a press conference.
You've sat in on press conferences before, haven't
you?
The worst thing ever.
They're boring.
They're really,
They're adorable.
and it's just, I don't understand how they're people. That's his daughter up there, and I mean that's a father-daughter moment, and it just so happens to be happening in front of 30 million people.
See, I want to see some of the other athletes bring their much older children. Like I want to see Tim Duncan's 22-year-old son sitting on his lap.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Dad, you're embarrassing me.
Son, you're embarrassing me. All right, Tori, next topic.
Okay. So, you guys can respond to this however, but I need to read this snippet from an article on Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, boy.
At one point, Lynch has delivered some chicken wings on the field, and he stuffs a few extras in his socks. Yes, you read that right. For a few minutes, this millionaire Pro Bowl running back was coaching football on a warm July afternoon with chicken wings in his socks, which he later removed and ate.
Well, I'm glad he removed them first. He didn't just go full sock. Did he have any dippers anywhere in his sneakers or in his arm warmers for his jacket? I don't know. What?
Pre-seasoned.
Pre-seasoned. Hashtag pre-seasoned. That's good. Chad, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten on a football field?
On the field? I mean, a banana for cramps, but that's not too weird, I don't think.
It's good. Potassium.
Potassium.
I'm not going to ask you where you hid the banana either.
No.
Heyo.
Skittles. I was just going to mention Skittles and chicken, and this man has strange taste. Continue, Tori.
One of my favorite athletes.
He's fantastic.
He's awesome.
Ronda Rousey at the ESPYs wins Best Fighter title, defeating Mayweather for the award. She says, I wonder how Floyd feels about being beat by a woman for once. I'd like to see you pretend not to know who I am now.
Whoa. Okay.
Shots fired.
Ronda's wonderful. I think she might be a horrible, horrible person to have to hang out with, but she is a wonderful media machine. She just pumps out great content, and this is perfect because Mayweather's such a blowhard and such a horrible guy who makes way too much money. He's going to make 100 times more than Ronda Rousey in his career than she ever will, and she might even be a better fighter than he is. He's untouchable, but she's a finisher, like I mentioned about Conor. She gets things done.
Floyd Mayweather's good because he's Floyd Mayweather. Just put it that way.
Yeah, you can't hit him. That's fine.
It's just annoying
but
when
these punches go through.
I
bet he's pretty upset.
He said it would. What was the other quote before the ESPY? She said, "I'd like to see him actually try and fight a girl that can hit him back or something like that." And it's like she just doesn't hold back.
Ronda's the best.
I like it.
Ronda's the best. All right, Tori.
So I've got a question for you. Is Billy Hamilton the Flash?
Billy Hamilton, I've been following his career, Reds outfielder. I've been following him a long time because he runs faster than any human being I've ever seen.
He stole third base on a throwback to the pitcher.
You know, when he's on base, you have to watch him at all times. I saw the throw. It was a nice, lazy, high looping throw to the pitcher, and then boom, he's on third base. The only problem with Billy Hamilton, he can't hit his weight. He can't get on base enough to make those steals actually mean something.
Yeah, and just to kind of play devil's advocate here, I will say that having a base running, it's probably only 70% pure speed. It's probably 60 or 30 or 40% is at least how just smart you are, and that's all timing. When you get, you take your extension, your shuffle. If you land right when that ball's getting thrown back and it's a loop, if you're as fast as he is, which is where the speed comes in, you just take it. Right. It's a lot of fun to watch, and adds a whole nother element.
Well, base stealing has kind of gone away because we had the hulking sluggers in the 90s.
Very few guys that can just go out there and straight steal now.
It's great, though. He could be the first person to steal 100 bases since, I think, Vince Coleman in the early 90s. It has not happened in forever, and it would be a lot of fun if it did.
It would be.
He steals at about a 90% clip. He's not getting caught at all. So. Next topic, Tori.
John Malkovich is attending every single Summer League game.
Malkovich. This is great. That means that I could attend every Summer League game if I could find that office that John Cusack found, because that would be awesome. What does he do there?
Apparently, he's a huge fan of Willie Cauley-Stein.
Okay, well, that makes
Willie True,
who, by the way, blocked a shot while attempting to walk off a rolled ankle.
So wait, he was
like walking off the rolled ankle and blocked a shot.
Just casually.
Well, so he's a true 7-footer. So when his arm is raised in the air, how high does that get? Is that 9 2/3?
Just about
feet?
10,
Just
isn't
about
it?
10
It's supposed
feet?
to be half as how tall you are, isn't it, or
Well,
something?
then there's the chest. We're all demonstrating with our arms in the air like morons right now. But that is awesome. Malkovich at the Summer League games. I know they talk about Jack Nicholson won't be at Laker games forever, and who's going to take over. Bill Simmons always smartly said, Leo DiCaprio would be the perfect guy. Always have a beautiful woman on his arm. He's an L.A. guy. Malkovich could take over for a little bit. I like that guy. He's a very interesting, talented actor in some bad movies, which is also awesome. All right, Tori.
Forbes released their list of the world's 50 most valued sports teams today. 20 of them are NFL franchises.
Yeah. Their pot is bigger than almost anyone else's. They just rake in money. The TV money they get for Sundays and Mondays is astronomical. There are still some Major League Baseball teams, because most of the baseball games are shown on regional sports networks. You watch CSN Barry to watch Giants games. Those are all team negotiated. So someone like the Houston Astros was getting paid pennies on the dollar to have their games aired or even not be aired in Houston. But the NFL is all together. They're all in. It's the most watched sport.
What is it, $24 billion is that new TV contract they signed?
The letter in front of the Illion just keeps
too
changing.
much. It's too much.
It could pay the national
Where does
debt.
the money go?
I know exactly where it goes.
It's just so frustrating.
They're all old white men who own sports teams who are just collecting cash. And the best ones, too, are the ones that have owned the team since like the 40s and 50s, like the Mara family or the Brunies, because they paid almost nothing to get their teams, and now they've just been building.
Best investment ever.
Building empires on top of empires as far as cash goes. So I'm not surprised at all. Isn't it Manchester U that's number one still?
Real Madrid.
Okay, Real Madrid.
It was Real Madrid.
Oh, really? Okay, I always thought it was Man U every year.
Their fans are just the loudest.
The other interesting part is one of the